Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. We've just announced well, I've not announced it, guys have announced a new sale for War Thunder. As you can see, everything is 30% off in the premium section, as well as I believe 30% off for like talismans and upgrades. Not the best really, you usually like to see 50% off, but Gaijin are being a little bit stingy. So we're going to be going over the premiums, just the tanks. I'll try and do a aviation video as well, although I'm not as well known for my aviation content. Anyway, so rank 1, you don't really want to ever be buying rank 1 premiums. You can only use them to grind out rank 2. So in terms of money goes, it's not very good value. I think this is a pack premium, and this is a fairly rare premium as well. So is this one actually. So the only one you can buy, I think, is the M2A4. Wouldn't really recommend it. It's a bit of a waste of money. The Stuart as well, I believe this is another pack premium, which you can't actually get. This is a reward vehicle. The Grant, I don't have it. I just don't really see a point in buying it. 2.7 is quite a fun lineup. It's quite fast and mobile. Do get up to 3.7 quite a bit though, where you do get dunked on. The Grant itself, it's got a 75mm howitzer, I believe. I think it does have AP rounds as well. I wouldn't really get it in my opinion. The M4A5 used to be really, really good. It's got a solid shot round. It's kind of like an M3 Elite, but the guns are reversed a bit. I thought it had two guns. It doesn't. It has a 57mm with solid shot. So for a battle rating 3.7 vehicle, you do have a very high amount of penetration, 122mm. So you can penetrate anything, really, quite easily. You just don't have that post-pen explosive failure that you usually do get with American vehicles. This one's a potential buy. 3.7, you've got a pretty decent lineup with the M4 and the M4A1. Not the best lineup, but you've got 3 or 4 solid backup tanks. You've got your SPA here as well. It's quite a niche fan favourite, the M4A5. It's Canadian as well, so I'm a Tiaboo, so I did buy it. We then have the T14. This tank is still pretty good. It used to be battle rating 4.3, where its arch nemesis was the T3457. Both vehicles got up tier to 4.7 though. It's still decent. It's basically an M4 Sherman with love handles, basically, I guess. It's a little bit more armor, really. Not a huge amount different, to be honest. You got a better sloping on the front, so you have better protection in general. It's basically an M4 Sherman with easy mode. You're a little bit more survivable. Same reliable 75mm gun. At 4.7, you can see up tiers to 5.3, where you do kind of get messed around a bit by the Panthers and the Tigers, but it's a decent premium for people trying to learn the game and want a little bit more survivability. The T55, that's a reward vehicle. The Black Cat, I believe, is one of the oldest premiums in the game. I'm not sure you can buy this for Golden Eagles. The Cobra King, this thing is basically a Sherman Jumbo, so you've got a lot more armor. I've got the Cancer Bush set up right here. You've got a very well protected upper frontal plate. The turret is also very thick, but you do only have the early 75mm gun. You do get the good M61 round, but it's still only a 100mm of penetration. And because this thing is 5.3, you are going to be facing Tigers quite a lot. Now, Tigers can't penetrate your upper frontal plate, with the exception of your machine gun in the hull. So, a lot of people swear by the Cobra King. I've never really had that much fun in it, mainly because while it's got good survivability and decent mobility, it's just not got that high firepower that I tend to prefer to like. We then have the Calliope. This is a gimmick vehicle if there ever was one. It's basically an M4 Sherman with a bunch of 114mm rockets, 4.5-inch rockets. In real life, fantastic against infantry and skirring people, but in War Thunder, where most vehicles are armoured, these rockets aren't going to be doing much damage. We still have the M61 shell, so it's got all the benefits of being an M4 Sherman gun stable and stuff like that. 24mm high explosive rocket pen. Like I said, it's going to tear up lightly armoured vehicles, but you shouldn't really be buying a tank for, I think this is like 10,000 Golden Eagles as well. It's something stupid. I obviously did buy it because I'm a word beginning with R, and I like to spend money on stupid stuff. We then have the T20. I can't remember whether this thing, did they take its gun stabilizer, or they gave it a vertical gun stabilizer now. This thing used to be very good in the meta. It's got quite a decently angled upper frontal plate. It's quite low profile as well, so it's kind of sneaky despite being a medium tank. This does get the 76mm gun though, giving us 150mm of pen. It's like 50% more penetration than the M4 Sherman in a smaller chassis. I haven't really played this, to be honest with you, recently, so I can't tell you if it's good in the current meta, but it's got a lot of firepower in a small chassis and a fairly mobile hull. So maybe its battle rating of 6.0 is a little bit rough, especially considering like something like a Panther is a higher tier than this. Then I have the Super Hellcat. I wouldn't really recommend getting this vehicle, to be honest. It's basically heavier than the Hellcat in the rank 3. It's got a bigger gun though, it's been upgraded to the 90mm gun. So while you do get more penetration with 173mm, and more importantly you get better post-pen damage, you've kind of lost that spiciness that the thing that makes the M18 good is you've got firepower in an incredibly mobile chassis, whereas the Hellcat you've got more firepower, but you don't really need that additional 90mm gun. The 76 is more than enough, and the tank is slower and a higher battle rating, so it kind of loses its competitive edge really, so I wouldn't recommend this vehicle. We then have the T28. This has got a 105mm gun. It's pretty decent, to be honest. It's very, very slow. It's kind of a single playstyle. You kind of creep towards the enemy. Is it worth 5,500 Golden Eagles? Obviously, I haven't bought it, so I don't think so. The M26 T99 is kind of like the Calliope. It's just a T26 with a bunch of rockets on the top of it. I wouldn't recommend buying it. I think I did buy it again because I'm stupid and wasted money. T29, this is a pack premium. This will be coming on sale probably in the next 2 weeks or so. They usually do a GE sale first and then a premium store sale after that. T29 is a decent tank. It's been up tiered to 7.0 from 6.7, but I still think it's competitive. The M26E1, this is quite a dark horse of the American tech tree. It's basically got a very long barrel 90mm gun. The tank is very slow though. It's not the best armoured, but we do get that fantastic T41 shell. 220mm of pen with basically 140 grams of TNT filler. This is a one-shot killing machine. However, it is a medium tank with basically a heavy tank gun. So you got a lot of alpha damage, but a very long reload comparatively, at least compared to other medium tanks. Quite a niche tank. I wouldn't recommend it for a newer player, but for someone that's been playing the game as long as I have, it's quite a nice backup vehicle. The T30, you can't buy this with Golden Eagles, but it is a nice tank HE spammer. I think that's something stupidly. I remember buying this off the store when it was 12 Gaijin coins. Now it's like at least over 150, something like that. The M46 Tiger, I think someone told me they had its heat shell removed, but still got it for some reason. So this is the M46. It is a Korean war vehicle. I think it's available for Golden Eagles. I've got the nice Tiger camouflage on it. You get heat effects at 7.0. It's pretty decent, to be honest. This is the main competitor to the T29. Historically, you either got the M46 or the T29. T29 obviously has a very powerful kinetic energy round, whereas the M46 has a powerful chemical round. Many people decide between which is best. I just bought both because I'm stupid. M46 is a lot faster than T29, but the T29 obviously has better post-pen damage really, because the Tiger, while having chemical rounds, especially early heat effects, don't really have the best one-shot killing potential. Then have the T114. This thing again used to be incredibly powerful. It used to be 6.7 and I used to run it in that lineup with the T29. This has basically 3 RPGs. Well, technically I think it's a recoilless rifle system. They basically sit in the tube here, so you have a ready rack of 3 rounds basically. And once you fire those 3 rounds, it takes ages for them to reload. This is it's a very advanced vehicle, to be honest, because you only have 3 shots and then you're kind of out of the fight for a while. It's kind of like a French autoloader in World of Tanks, where you fire 3 and then you're basically out the battle for what feels like 20 minutes. So not for new players, but it's a very rewarding vehicle to play if you are an intermediate or advanced player. The Magak 3 can no longer get this in the American tech tree. This is now in the Israeli one. T-54, an autoloader at battle rating 8.0. It's pretty decent. The only problem is that the ammunition is a little sketchy. This is like a medium tank, but it's more of a heavy medium tank. So while you do have a very fast fire rate of you fire every 5 seconds, I believe, and you get pretty decent rounds, but at 8.0, their effect isn't amazing. I guess the Sable round here, the APDS, is probably your best bet. It's one of those vehicles that I haven't really played in a while. It's kind of a bit out of place at its battle rating of 8.0. This is like a World War II era vehicle, now in like a pretty mid-Cold War battle rating. So, I wouldn't really recommend it. We then have the XM1. Again, this is a pack premium. It's still a pretty decent grinder, especially now that the other premium vehicles have been up to 9.3. 10.3, sorry, so like the Terms and the Panzer Battalion 123, they have all gone up to 10.3 now. So 9.3 should have like a little bit new lease of life, hopefully at least. We then have the M1128 Wolfpack. I haven't bought this mainly because I don't actually need to. I've already grounded out most of the American tech tree, so 10k Golden Eagles for me is quite a big investment for something that I don't really need. That being said, I did buy the Calliope. Anyway, it only has M833. It's a decent round, but it's nowhere near as good as the M900 found on the tech tree variant. I wouldn't recommend buying this. I'd wait for the new Abrams tank that's coming in the future. That will obviously be a pack premium rather than a Golden Eagle premium. It's also not on sale, so there's no point me really covering it. Anyway, that's all the premiums for the Americans. Let's move on to the spicy Germans. Again, rank 1 premiums, you shouldn't really be buying them. I haven't bought this. Most of these are pack premiums anyway. That's a starter pack, and they're obviously event or reward vehicles. Panzer 3N, it's a Panzer 3 with a heat of fast round. Well, a heat round actually, sorry. 100mm of penetration at 3.0, you can't really complain. It's quite a nice, chill vehicle, really. Obviously not as competitive as the M series with the long barrel 50. Still nice to have. This thing, I can't pronounce it. Someone will have to... I'm British, not being able to speak German is a point of pride. Anyway, national arrogance aside, this little bugger at 2.3 is very good. You get a 106mm penetrating Panzergranate 39. This thing's basically like a Locust. I don't think that's... If you played World of Tanks like the Locust, that thing just runs around the battlefield and shoots people in the side. And it's the same thing for this, really. It's not even got a roof on it. It's got some canvas. You can see the guys in there. Anyway, it's obviously not an amazing vehicle. It's just a fun, relaxing thing. I think this is a pack premium as well, actually. I don't think you can actually buy it for Golden Eagles. Then have the Nebelwerfer, I think it's called. This thing has 20 rounds of ammunition, but you only have a 10 round ready rack. The rounds themselves are 6-inch or 150mm with 27mm of explosive penetration. It's a meme vehicle for sure, but it's very, very bad for grinding, so only buy this if you are an experienced player with lots of money who just wants to have a bit of fun. Not even I'm a sadist enough to do that. I'm not sure it's a sadist. What's the one where you like, violence makes you happy, whatever that is. Not even I'm masochistic enough to get by that. That is a event reward. The C-34-747. This used to be considered one of the best premiums in War Thunder. It's just a captured Russian T-34. It's an early T-34. It only gets like these. This gives me PTSD looking at these. They're all pretty abysmal. The BR-350. 96mm of penetration at 4.3. Not the best, but it is surprisingly good enough in most situations, especially if you can get someone on the flank. Then move on to another captured Soviet vehicle, the KV-2 754. This thing is just... While it is a bit of a meme vehicle, and it did get a semi-armor piercing round in the last couple of updates, I believe, I don't have this... Oh, I do have it, actually. I don't remember buying it. Anyway, I don't really play this that much. I guess in a 3.7 lineup. I don't even got it in my 3.7 lineup. Have I got it in my other one? No, that's surprising. It's basically, it's a troll vehicle basically, isn't it? You get one kill, then you're out of action for like a minute. Again, not for a beginner. Don't buy it if you are new to the game. I know it has got like a lot of legendary meme status. It's not going to be fun for you to play if you aren't chill, let's say. The Pack Puma, no one has that. It's so stupidly expensive. The Commander Panzer IV, this thing, it's basically not got turret drive. It turns at 7 degrees per second, which is embarrassingly slow. They removed the turret gear to make room for radio equipment or something like that, or they didn't have the turret drive available in that late war model. Anyway, it's basically a Panzer IV that can't turn its turret very fast. Not the best. You do still have the long 75, so it can get kills. It's just hard to get that turret round. German Sherman, legendary vehicle, used to be incredibly good. The meta has changed quite a lot though. You can't even buy this anymore, it's that rare. A little bit of a flex on my end, but moving on. The German Churchill, fantastic vehicle, high penetration gun at 4.0, 132mm of penetration. The armor of this Churchill, isn't the best though. We've got flat turret, 89mm of pen is nothing at 4.0. There are lots of tanks that can kill this thing very easily, and especially in an up tier, your armor is basically useless. The KV-1B, can't actually get this. Another legendary vehicle, incredibly thick armor plating on the sides, but it's seen a lot better days, to be honest. It can easily be penetrated by a lot of the things firing at you at 4.0 and upwards. Brumbar, kind of like the Nebelwerfer, a troll vehicle. Very large howitzer or rocket round in this thing. It's alright at 4.3. I use it in my 4.3 lineup as a little bit of like a meme vehicle, but I wouldn't buy this. VFW, that is a Guardian Marketplace weapon. Very, very fun, although you get killed by planes pretty much every time you play it. Panzer 470, it's a Sturmgeschützpanzer. Well, I guess it's not a Stug. It's a Panzer 4 chassis. No, wrong button. It is a weird design. As you can see here, it's got like a flat bit here. It's basically a Panzer 4 tank gun with the Panther's main gun, I believe. So you've got a very, very good gun. 170mm of penetration, is it, on the Panther gun? Or 192, sorry. So very, very good in terms of firepower, but you've got a massive weak spot here because it's just flat armor, so anybody can just shoot you and go straight through. That's why I have bushes on the front of this to try and disguise it. However, most people still manage to penetrate you pretty easily. Wouldn't really recommend it. A tank I would recommend is a KV-1C. This has got the long barrel 75 from a Panzer IV strapped onto a KV-1. While it did get updated to 5.0 recently, it used to be 4.7, this thing is still pretty good in my opinion. That main gun just doesn't let you down really. While you can be uptiered to 6.0 where it is a little rough, the KV-1C in my opinion is still a fantastic vehicle and I would highly recommend it. We then have this thing, the Panzer Behelfswagen. It's basically like the premium Panzer IV we just covered. It's a command tank. Just a Porsche Tiger, the one that used to explode all the time and catch fire because it had so much copper in it or something stupid like that. Anyway, I wouldn't recommend this. Tiger 2 SLA-16, it's got a unique engine, the engine that the Russians are currently using in the T-14 Armata. As you can see, it's like an X engine, I believe. Anyway, that's not very relevant. This thing is a fantastic vehicle. It's a pack premium though, so you won't be getting it for Golden Eagles. The Jagdpanther, again, another command vehicle. This thing has like the additional radio systems. Doesn't really do anything in War Thunder itself. It's just an excuse Guardian uses to sell it as a premium. That radio antenna makes a huge lot of difference. RU-251 used to be the most overpowered vehicle, arguably in the German tech tree. Basically, Germany never used to have any light tanks at 7.0 or 6.7, and they added one as a premium. A cheap way for Guardian to make money, but people don't really complain about it anymore. It's pretty decent. It's quite fast with a heater fast shell. It's not spammed out as much as it used to be, but it is still pretty potent. that pretty much covers it for rank 4. This is a reward vehicle, and these things are rare as heck. Tiger 2 105. The M47 German one got SAKO and Heat of Fest. Or do we not have SAKO? Well, we do have the M82 Nuke Shell. This thing is absolutely lethal. 140 grams of TNT, as well as the M431 Heat of Fest shell. Not really that good in my opinion. I'd save your money and get the Term 3. This thing is a pack premium, I believe, but it should be coming on sale pretty soon. This thing is fully stabilized with a 30mm main gun, as well 30mm side auto cannon, as well as your 105 L7. Only downside, as you can see, it's got a lot of ammunition mounted right here, which is a little bit of a fire hazard, shall we say. But 8.0 is a pretty decent vehicle. We then have the TAM2 IP. This is pretty decent, to be honest. It's basically the same as the TAM2 in the tech tree, except we have DM33, as well as additional composite armor added on to the sides of the hull and surrounding the turret. I don't have this because I already have several German vehicles, as well as having pretty much all the German tech tree unlocked at this point. Leopard A1A1, again, another pack premium, so you can't get it for Golden Eagles. With the 10.3 meta, well, with the 10.0 meta now changing to 10.3, the 9.0s might get a little bit of a respite. We might see a revival in the 9.0 lineups for every tech tree. So the Leopard A1A1, it might be a good pickup if you don't already have it. Most people probably do already have this. It's not worth $60 anymore, especially with the advent of the Leopard 2 Panzer Battalion 123. It has DM23, not the best in the world, but it's a pretty decent vehicle, to be honest. You see this thing spammed out all the time at 10.3 now. It's basically half the play base at top tier is now using these things. They're that popular. I would get it on a discount though if it does. It's $60 is obviously a lot of money no matter what the premium is. So Russia, they got a lot of rank 1s. I'm not going to cover all of them because this thing's actually quite good. SU-57 Femboy. If you know, you know. M86, pretty decent, 120. Not the most explosive filler, but it's certainly workable. T3 as well. It is a captured Panzer III with a short barrel 50, I believe. So you obviously don't get that fantastic pen as the long barrel Panzer III M. 80mm is not the best, but 30 grams of TNT filler, you can get it done. Also, it's a pretty decent tank. I used to like playing it a lot. T162 used to be a massive troll vehicle. Not sure if you can get it for Golden Eagles anymore. The ZUT is an anti-aircraft vehicle technically, but it's got quite high penetration with its autocannon. 71mm of penetration, so it can be used as like a tank destroyer, kind of like a very early ZSU 57-2. I haven't bought it because I don't really play low tier Russia that much, but potentially a pretty good vehicle. A lot of people swear by it. The SMK is like a land tank thing. It's quite memey, to be honest. You do have quite a lot of crew. We've got 7 people crew, so it is quite hard to kill. In the fact that if all these 4 men die, you can still run the tank basically. It's not the best armored in the world though. 60mm plates on the, I guess it's a barbette if it was a ship. Not really sure what it's called in tanks. It's not very well protected, but you do have pretty decent survivability purely down to just how many crew members you have. The guns as well aren't the best. You've got a 76 and a 45. Pretty low penetration guns, but they do have decent post-pen damage. BT7A, this is only available in the marketplace. However, I would pick it up if you can afford it. Pretty good gun. I use this thing at like 7.3 all the time. Pretty high power gun, and it's a very, very fast chassis as well. Very, very good troll vehicle. The Katyusha, I don't have it. It's a sore spot for me. I really want this vehicle, but I'm not paying 80 Gaijin coins for it. SU-85, again, I think that is a marketplace vehicle. Valentine is only available on the Valentine's Day. T-34 First Guards Tank Regiment Battalion Brigade, maybe. It's a very early T-34. I never really had fun with this tank. It's only got the early ammunition, which makes it a little bit of a pain to play. Maybe it's alright now. I kind of have bad... It's one of the very early premiums that I bought, and I never really had fun with it. On the opposite to that, though, is the T-34-57. This thing is 4.7 now, as I mentioned with the T something in the American tech tree. This got up to 4.7 from 4.3. However, it's still good in my opinion. 57mm gun, which allows you to penetrate 145mm of armor. While you do lack that high explosive filler of the 76mm T-34s, the additional penetration is basically the main downside of the early T-34s. So having high pen in this chassis makes it an absolute lethal. Highly recommend this tank. SU-100, the box tank, if you ever used to watch the Mighty Jingles. It's decent. I don't buy it because I think I had a test drive of this once. It's not the best, to be honest. 130mm gun. It's a one-shot killing machine, but you're out of the action for quite a while after you fire. So not the best for grinding. If you're a newer player, I wouldn't get it. KV-1E, kind of like the KV-1B in the German tech tree. It's an up-armoured KV-1. It's not the best in the meta anymore because a lot of enemies can now penetrate you pretty easily. The M4A2 is a tank I strongly recommend people do not buy. It kind of gets clobbered around quite a bit. The American version of the tank is also pretty bad. It just doesn't really have a place in the meta. You do get the pretty decent M62 shell, but pretty much anything can go through you. And something else, the Soviets don't really have a great 5.3 lineup. I guess you do have the IS-1, but the Soviet lineups is usually 6.3 and 7.3, so 5.3 it kind of just gets clubbed around a bit. The KV-220, one of my favourite tanks in the game for trolling, 100mm of armour in every angle basically. It's definitely not as good as it used to be, and you can't even get it for Golden Eagles. Again, just another little flex of mine. Same for the KV-6, this thing is just awful. 5 degrees of gun depression, so you basically can't engage anything. Like, try killing an M22 Locust in this thing if it gets close to you. It's impossible. Literally impossible to depress the gun. KV-5, not KV-5, the T5 I believe it's called, or the TV. I think it's T5 though. Basically just a captured Panther. One of my favourite tanks to play in the game. Messes with people in sim battles as well. T-34A5E, one of the best premiums you can get for the Soviets. It's basically just it's a T-34 with a load of bed things welded onto the side of it. This protects you somewhat from shape charges. However, in War Thunder, these have no effect whatsoever. It's purely cosmetic. Quite a cool vehicle. I think you can, I don't actually know if you can get this for Golden Eagles, but it is one of the best tanks you can get. It's just a copy and paste of a T-34-85. So you get all the benefits of it, really. KV-122, if you've ever played World of Tanks in the olden days, this was the old KV-1S, I believe. 122mm gun, made from I believe it's from a naval gun. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. It's pretty decent main gun round, same as the IS-2, but it's a KV-1 hull, so you've got no protection basically. SU-122P, very powerful gun, 122 as you'd expect. The 471D shell, very high penetration, 230, and almost 200 grams of TNT filler. Very, very deadly gun, however it is a SU-100 hull basically, so not the most well protected. Kind of a little bit slow, and tank destroyers are kind of out of the meta really. The IS-2 Revenge, pretty decent tank. Don't know if you can get this for Golden Eagles. Very good armour at the front of the vehicle, very sloped. We also got the 12.7 Dushk, whatever they're called, in the last couple of updates. Yeah, Dushk. I know that's a shortened name for 3 different things, but I would recommend this vehicle if you can get it. I don't think you can, I think it's a pack one. The T-44-122, can you guess what caliber gun this thing has? That's right, a 122. Same as the IS-2, we only get the B round of the 471, so we don't get that very powerful D round, which you'd like to see. This thing, it's a very, very fast. It's a very, very fast medium tank, but you have the gun of a heavy tank. So once you fire this thing, you're out of the action for like 20 to 30 seconds, depending on your reload speed. You can't really play it as a medium tank because of that, because of the long reload. Not the best for newer players, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you're got a lot of money to spare, basically. The 248, that was a reward for the Battle Pass. T-34-100, a vehicle which I used to adore, but it's now kind of fallen out of the meta. 100mm gun on a T-34 hull. It used to be incredibly fast for its battle rating, but now it's kind of mediocre because of all the additional light tanks at this battle rating. It does get the 412D shell, gives it 240mm of penetration and nearly 100 grams of TNT filler. So, in terms of firepower, certainly can't complain. It's got this incredibly good Polish camouflage, which I love. But the tank itself, despite being fun to play, it's still only a T-34 hull, basically. You've got a massive and widened turret, which is quite comical. It's not the best, though. If you're an advanced player, then I would recommend it, because it is generally very fun. But it's quite unforgiving for newer players, because you don't really have that armor to bounce any type of incoming round. I would recommend for a new player getting the IS-7. This thing is basically ridiculously well armoured. Over 218mm on the upper frontal plate, and on the side it's well over 300. This is basically immune from incoming APC-BC rounds on the hull. You can kill it in the gun turret like here and on the sides. It does get dicked about by like SAKO and chemical weapons though, but at 7.0, half the games are going to be down tiers where you just absolutely stomp people. Then I have the Object 120. This is like a bit of a weird vehicle for me. I've never really had loads of luck with it, mainly because it is unstabilized and a very, very big vehicle. It's kind of a single role vehicle. You have to play it as a sniper. You can't really use it as aggressive. You can't really use it as a scout. It's kind of got one dedicated role, and that is just blowing everything to pieces. 152mm gun with heat, HE, and Sabo. You can't really complain about the gun itself. It just has to be played in one singular playstyle, which is being a sniper or a camper, really. Then have the AM1, the old, most overpowered tank in the game. This thing, despite having a very good camouflage, is actually still incredibly good. We have the BR412D shell, same as on the T-34-100, 240mm of pen and 100 grams of TNT filler. We also have a Sabo as your stock weapon, as well as a heater fast round, as well as an early anti-tank missile. I'd stick with the APC-BC round. The chemical round isn't really... we also have a Sabo as well, but this thing is really, really bad. I wouldn't recommend using this. Just stick to using your BR412. This thing is a one-shot killing machine. And at 8.3, most of the tanks you go up against will easily be killed by this. Then have the T-72AV Terms. It's still an incredibly good tank, despite being like out for 2+ years now or something like that. It probably is going to go on sale, I'd imagine, pretty soon. I would buy it. The 2S38, I doubt this will be in the sale because it only came in the last couple of updates. It's annoying, but it's one of those vehicles where it can destroy your gun and like your turret ring pretty easily, but you can kill. It's like a glass cannon basically. You can use it for shooting down enemy planes and helicopters, which is always good. You've got that auto tracker system thing. I believe it's that. Yeah, auto tracker. It's quite good. It's got a decent 10.0 lineup with this thing, the 2S38 and then the SU-25. That covers our Soviet territory. Let's go on to the Brit Bongers. I'm not going to cover these because they're all tragic. Cromwell, I wouldn't recommend it. While you do have the rockets, the RP3s, but you can't aim them up or down. We also only have the 75mm gun. The better Cromwell is the 57mm gun, which has the solid shot. This has more penetration, basically. So it's basically the less good Cromwell variant with kind of gimmicky weapons. The Achilles, pretty decent tank destroyer. Very powerful gun. 190mm of penetration. It's just got no turret drive, so it's very, very slow to swing that turret around. Makes it quite insufferable to play, really. The Sherman Firefly, the Polish model. And again, another great tank. It's basically like the Achilles, but on a Sherman hull. We've got that long barrel 17-pounder. We don't have the Sabo round just yet, but we do have the Shot Mark 8. Very, very good gun. The AC4, a Australian design with that again, that 17-pounder gun, I believe. 190mm of penetration. Can't complain, it does look a bit weird though. But then that's not a very good way of judging a vehicle's performance. The Comet, the ING, can't really buy that anymore, it's on the marketplace. Same for the Ram and the Crocky. Black Prince, never buy this, it is absolutely awful. Can't buy this either because it's in the Swedish territory now. The Action 10 or the Action X, not quite sure which is the right word. You can't really complain about it. Stabilised gun at 7.3 with a Sable round. 380. Oh, that's increased quite a lot. Anyway, while you do have a lot of penetration, the post-penetration damage isn't the best on these. You kind of have to aim for crew or ammunition stores. The Avery is, as always, quite a fun vehicle to play. It does require you to be a little bit accurate, well, very accurate with your shooting. I wouldn't recommend this if you're a newer player. It isn't the best for grinding vehicles out with. A lot of people swear by this in arcade, as it is quite good for grinding, I hear in there. I don't play arcade, so I can't really comment on that. For realistic battles, it's more of a relaxing, chill vehicle, not really a grinding vehicle. If you do want to grind, I would recommend the Centurion Mark 5.1. You can get this pretty cheap on the Guardian Marketplace, I believe. It's a rank 5 Centurion at 7.3. So you can grind out basically Challenger Mark 3s with a Centurion at 7.3. Makes grinding very easy, to be honest. Shot Caudalette, that's no longer in the British territory. It's been moved to the Israeli one. I obviously bought it before it got moved though. The Ruicat 105, a video I just made literally the other day. It's pretty good in my opinion. I really like this thing. Same cannot be said for the Khalid. This thing is awful. It's just painful to play in every sense of the word. The Challenger DS, again, it's not the worst premium in the world. It kind of gets left in the dust though by the Leopard Panzer Battalion 123 and the T-72 AV terms. So I wouldn't recommend these two. The Ruicat 105 is good. The Avery is good if you're an advanced player, but not if you're a beginner. Onto the Japanese, we have the Kachi, Rogo, and Hago. I don't really play the Japanese territory that much. It's one of the nations that I don't really... Well, I have top tier, but Gaijin basically just gave me them. Some notable vehicles is the Chinu 2, if you can get this. This is a very, very powerful gun. As you can see, we have 151mm of penetration. This means that a 4.3 tank is still viable up to 6.0. I used to play the Chinu with the heavy tank number 6, and it's still more than capable of getting kills. This thing is a Japanese Tiger 1 tank that used to be available in the German territory. I don't think you can get this anymore. It's a very, very good grinder though, as most people don't expect the Japanese to have a Tiger. The Hori prototype, it's a vehicle that I've never really had fun playing. While it does have a pretty decent gun, it's very vulnerable to CAS. And it's just something, I've never really liked this tank that much. That might be just me though, so you're probably looking at a better video or a better content creator for that. The 75 MLRS, it's basically like a Calliope, but you have slightly better rockets. You've got 130mm instead of the 114s. They have 6.14 kilos of TNT filler, giving them 51mm of explosive penetration. So, certainly very powerful. However, you kind of just have to spam these at an enemy and hope that you hit them. It's very hard to aim, especially at longer ranges. Japan really is missing a good rank 5 premium. I don't know why they still have this. It's quite niche, to be honest. The Type 74G, this is an old premium. Not sure if you can buy this anymore. However, I wouldn't recommend it even if you could. The Type 16 is much better. However, the Type 16 is a little bit lacking compared to something like the Ruicat 105 or even a Tetri vehicle like the Radkampfwagen 90. Onto China. The T-26 is a early Soviet vehicle. However, I guess in this situation it's being used by the Taiwanese. M3A3, again. None of these vehicles are really worth buying. The M4A4 is pretty decent though. It's a stabilised Sherman. As you'd expect, it's always a stabilised Sherman at 3.7 is always going to be good. M61 shell as usual. We've already covered these though. Pretty decent survivability. It's good stabilised gun. It's good for beginners. If you want to grind out the Chinese territory, then the M4A4 is a very good starter vehicle. M64 only available on the marketplace, basically a Taiwanese Hellcat. The same way I said that the T-3485E was a good choice, well, it's the same for the Chinese version, the number 215. This is the same as a regular Soviet T-3485, except it's got 215 spray painted on the side. Very unique Gaijin, thank you. Anyway, same gun, same pen, 135mm. It's pretty. There's nothing you can say about it. You know what you're expecting. It's a T-3485. The T-3485 guy as well. It's got a dusk on it, which makes it cool in my opinion. The 50 cal is literally half the size of the turret. Wouldn't like to be cramped into a T-34 turret. I did buy this. I grinded quite a lot of this rank of China with it. It's a pretty nice vehicle. The IS-2, number 402, again, you just got spray painted 402 on the side. Very unique. This thing, it's a heavy tank basically in a medium tank meta. The medium tanks around this battle rating are far more powerful. You've got a lot higher top speed, less survivability granted, but you can fire a lot fast. You can fire 2 of these rounds for every one of an IS-2. So you're much better getting the T-3485 in my opinion. You also have a better 5.7 lineup, as the IS-6 is obviously 6.0. Then have the ZTZ-59A. This is actually a very good vehicle. I enjoy this a lot. It's got that BR-412D round, the same round found on many 100mm armed guns, notably the, what's it called now? The T-55AM-1, the premium at 8.3 in the Soviet Tetri. I enjoyed this quite a lot. It's got a vertical gun stabilizer, so it is still quite good in a aggressive situation. I like it quite a lot. Same for the T-69-2A. This also has the same round, it has a T-44. It's basically the same. It is actually the same gun, just a different name. Type 44. It's still got 240mm of pen with 93 grams of TNT. It's basically the exact same tank in a different hull and turret, really. It's quite a lot lower profile as well. These go together really, really well. I used them both in my 8.3 lineup, I believe. This is one of the pay-to-win lineups in War Thunder. It's very, very good. Moving up, we have the T62-545 again. Got 545 spray painted. This thing is awful low. Never buy this if they ever bring it back. The WMA 301. This is very, very good. It used to be a beast at 8.3. But everyone complained, rightfully so, because it was absolutely killing at 8.3. It's still fantastic at 8.7. It's got a pretty decent Type 83 AP FSDS round. We also have a tandem charged anti-tank guided missile. There's nothing that this thing can't do really. It's incredibly fast, good gun handling with second generation thermals. One of the best premiums in the game. Only downside is that it is Chinese and not many people really like to play the Chinese. However, I've got my money out of this tank. It's very, very good. The T69, this thing used to be the top tier Chinese premium, but it was kind of crap. It didn't have thermal imaging when every other nation's top tier premium did. It's a Bangladeshi vehicle, I believe, of Chinese descent. It's not bad though. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's not my favourite, to be honest. We then have the ZTZ-96A. This is a prototype of the Tetri 96. It's pretty decent, to be honest, at 10.0. The only real thing that you don't have is a decent lineup. The only other 9.0, the only other 10.0 vehicle, is the Tetri version, and you kind of just don't have anything to go with it. This is one of the major downsides compared to like the Soviet Tetri, where at 10.0 you have a lot of backup vehicles, whereas this vehicle you just don't have anything to go with it. I would recommend this if you get it on a good deal, maybe 50% off. It's just, if you're trying to like grind out the Chinese Tetri, you're only going to have one vehicle until you get the ZTZ. Sure, you can use some of these vehicles as backup, but it's not the best. Going on to the Italians. First of all, we have the Salieri Sahariano. I'd recommend this tank. I don't have it myself, but a lot of people swore by it and said it's quite good. I haven't bought it because I don't really see a need to, but something that I would recommend is the M4 Hybrid. Like the premium Sherman in the Chinese Tetri, this is basically the same, except it uses the back of a M4A4, is it? No, it can't be because it doesn't use the massive engine. It uses 2 different Sherman hulls welded together, as you can see here. You get the same stabilized M61 shell, 75mm gun. It's a good premium vehicle. Bloody hell. It's a good premium vehicle for grinding out the early Italian tech tree, really. You can get yourself all the way up to the Sherman Firefly, the Sherman 5C. I would recommend it. Also at battle rating 3.7, which I would highly recommend, is the Panzer IV-G. I use this in a lineup alongside the premium Sherman, as you can see here. This thing has a functioning turret drive. Instead of having 7 degrees per second, we now have 13 degrees per second. Doesn't sound like much, but it's quite a big difference when you're talking about degrees per second. Again, long barrel 75mm gun, very, very potent at 4.3. These 2 tanks go very well together. The only downside of the M4 is it's a rank 2, so you can't use it in events. But apart from that, I used to have a lot of fun playing a 3.7 Italian lineup. The Zarini is a recent event reward. Can't really get this for Golden Eagles. The Ariete at 6.3, this thing is god-awful, don't play it. The M60 Ariete, I think you can get this again now. The good thing is the lower frontal plate is ridiculously well armoured. But no one's going to shoot you in the lower frontal glacis, really. The turret as well, pretty well protected. It's like an M60 though. It's kind of left behind at 7.7. It's unstabilized gun as well. It used to have a stabilizer, but then Gaijin removed it, and it caused quite a big hoo-ha in the War Thunder community. It does have a decent heater fest round, but I guess it can be quite well. But in an up tier to like 8.3 or 8.7, you're going to get dicked on. The Arbol HVG, again, a vehicle that used to be incredibly good, but is a little bit left behind in the time now. You only get a 60mm APFSDS round, which has the post-pen damage of like a potato gun. Not the best. You can't even get this for Golden Eagles. It's a very rare vehicle to have in War Thunder now, but it's not very effective. OF40, I think you can get this for Golden Eagles. This used to be the top tier pack premium for the Italians. Get a DM23 round, not the best. No thermal imaging. It's just a Leopard 1 want to be, really, in a bigger chassis. Do get a 50 cal, which is nice, but that's really the only good thing about this vehicle. I wouldn't really recommend getting it. The VRCC, big upgrade over the OF40. You get DM33 as well as second generation thermal imaging, as well as a laser warning receiver and a much faster vehicle in general. Highly recommend buying this if it's on sale. I bought it, as you can see. Very, very good top tier grinder. Pretty decent 9.0 lineup as well. You have the 105 Centauro, the other Centauro as well. Have the Leopard 185. 9.0 is quite a sweet spot at the minute for the Italians. Going on to the French, and I have to be somewhat racist against the French. I am English after all. No, but being serious, again, the 2C base, quite a mean vehicle. I didn't buy it because I don't really like playing rank 1s, even if it can be used for like trolling newer players. It's a pretty decent vehicle. It's obviously not on sale because it's quite new. The B1 again, used to be very, very powerful. I believe it used to be 2.3. I think they've up-tiered it to 2.7 recently. This thing's an event vehicle. The AMX-13 M24 uses the AMX-13 hull, I believe, with an M24 turret. Pretty decent gun. M61 shot again. The difference between this turret and the Sherman turret is that this thing doesn't have a... Oh, it does have a stabilizer, actually. That's strange. Anyway, quite a decent vehicle, 3.7. It does go quite well with like the M4A1. I thought this tank, oh, you do get the 105 Sherman as well as the M4A4. That's what I was looking for. So you can run this thing as well as the 3 other American vehicles and kind of roleplay as an American in the French tech tree. The M4A1 FL10, this uses an M4 Sherman hull with a auto-loading turret. Very, very good tank at 5.0. Used to be 4.7 where it was even better. Still competitive at 5.0, but obviously not as good. EBR 1954, not as good as it used to be because it's gone up in battle rating. Like, I think this used to be 4.3, didn't it? Something like that. Or 4.7. It's probably the tank that's gone up most in battle rating in War Thunder. The Belle Delphine Panther. No comment. This thing is really, really good. 190mm of penetration as all other Panthers premiums. I think you can still buy this for Golden Eagles. It's a very, very good tank. Only downside is that the French tech tree doesn't really have any 5.7 backups. So you kind of have to use the Slugger or like the Jumbo. Not the best at all, to be honest. This thing, it's a forgotten premium, to be honest. It's the same gun that's found on the M4 FL10. Its APC BC round's pretty good, 202mm of penetration, but it's 6.7. It's kind of underpowered when its main gun firepower. You do obviously get 4 anti-tank guided missiles. However, these are manual command line of sight. They're not even SAKO missiles, so you have to guide them with your WASD buttons on your keyboard. So not very effective in my opinion. However, they can be used if you are quite a good player. Again, not for newer players, only for advanced people. The Sommoir SM, very, very good tank. Kind of like the IS-6, but to a lesser degree. Very, very well armoured upper frontal plate. Weak spot is obviously the turret ring here, only 40mm thick. Good gun on it as well. Not as survivable as an IS-6, but every bit as powerful in my opinion. It's got a better gun than the IS-6 as well. The 100mm with 273mm of pen. So 70mm more than an IS-6 for a little bit less survivability. Very recommended in my opinion. This thing's the latest vehicle from the event or battle pass, so that's not going to be on sale. AMX-30 at 7.7. This thing is pretty junk. I never bought this because it's unstabilized. You don't even have any type of good ammunition. You only get the early heat round. So any sort of angled armor, this thing's just going to bounce or not even penetrate. Really, really not worth it whatsoever. AMX-30 Super. This used to, again, with the Leopard L44, used to be one of the 2 best premiums in War Thunder. It's had a bit of a fall from grace though. The turret traverse is pretty awful. The mobility is nowhere near as good as it used to be, mainly due to the addition of so many light tanks. The round is quite good, but compared to some of the other like 10.3 premiums available, this thing's a little bit behind the time and it still costs $60. So I'd wait for a new French 10.3 coming, which should have come like a year ago, because France does suffer at top tier because you can't actually grind it. Imagine trying to grind top tier with this or that. No thank you. Anyway, Sweden. Again, lots of random rank 1 and 2 vehicles. The Sav 2012-48. This used to be a meme when it came into the game, but I now believe it's quite powerful. And a lot of people actually want this. I haven't actually played this at all. I don't get enough free time. IKV-73, I think that was a crafting event or something stupid like that. That's a German tank, I believe, that's been pressed into Swedish service. The Asti RV81, which was originally in the British tech tree, but is now in the Swedish. Like the French vehicle we just looked at, this thing has the same missiles strapped onto the side of it. Again, these are guided by your WASD keys, so not very good at all. We do have that Centurion Mark III gun performance and armor scheme though. So we get a Sable round with 384mm of penetration, as well as having a pretty decent armor. 76mm on the upper frontal plate. Then your turret is just super, super thick. However, enemies that are taller than you can shoot down into this very weak spot here. We then have the worst tank premium in the game in my opinion, the STRV 103-0. This thing, I just can't put into words how just bad this thing is. The aiming doesn't work on it, as I'm sure you'll all know. While the gun itself does look quite good with over 270mm of pen, it's just very hard to get that gun onto a target, and you kind of just have to sit in the middle of the open field and hope that War Thunder actually guides the gun onto the target. It's not good for grinding. While people will argue it's very hard to kill, that is true, but only if you're in a very, very niche position, like hold down and in a strong, well thought out position. If you need to like retreat or anything, good luck, because this is dog shit. The Leopard 105 Norwegian, pretty decent grinder to be honest. With the 10.3 meta, the 9.0 might come into a league of its own. Kind of like a lot of the other 9.0s though. Doesn't really have the best lineup at 9.0. Sweden only really has the 105 And then it's basically just down to 8.3s from there. Guess you have the Veek as well. It's a very good anti-air system. But it's a good tank, but it's got a lack of backups, to be honest. The CV90-105, one of the best premiums currently in War Thunder. Probably the best, to be honest, in terms of value for money. Very good gun, DM33, second generation thermal imaging, laser 1 in receiver, scout. Very, very good. Very good backup as well, to be honest. You have the Stritzford 9040s. You have this one, the earlier one. The Bill, very, very good tank. You could also take along the M1 if you really wanted. A very, very good lineup at 9.0. I use this in my top tier lineup as well, I believe. Or I should have it. Or actually not in this one. It's a very, very, very good tank. I would strongly recommend picking this up if you do have the money. I wouldn't really get the 105. This thing is just as good, but it is obviously a pack premium, not a Golden Eagle premium. So you may have to wait. And then finally for the Israelis, the only real good premium here is the Merkava Mark 2D. This thing got an additional round, the M413, DM33 basically. It makes this tank very, very good. The Shot Cal is pretty cringe. It's got thermal imaging now, I think, but it's not very good in my opinion. It's too slow. It's got a very mediocre round, and at 8.7 you're going to see up tiers to like 9.0, 9.3, where you're just going to get absolutely beaten like an Irish housewife, really. So Magak 3 again, not good. It's a M48 or an M60 with additional add-on armor. It's not worth it. You do get a lot of smoke grenades, I guess, which isn't really a selling point. The Sable round's good. Heat of Fast is alright. And basically that's it. That's not a tank. Merkava Mark 2D though, highly recommend it. Again, like a lot of the other premiums I've mentioned today, the only major downside is the lack of backup. I guess you have like these vehicles, but I'm not grinding all these out just to play it. These were given to me. I don't know if you can hear the ice cream man in the background with his magical song. But that covers it for this video. Hopefully I'll try and cover the planes if my voice hasn't cracked. It's already starting to wake. Anyway boys, hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the future.